So today we are going to jump into a podcast that I will let you know. I do listen to this over my husband's shoulder. I listen to this. This is Dave Smith. This is Part of the Problem podcast that we are going to be jumping into. If you do not know Dave Smith, he is a comedian and he's out here in these streets, and he's also kind of, I think he's ruffling a little bit of political feathers. You might say, well, how is he a comedian then also has such hot takes? Well, that's because that's Dave Smith. That's just how he does it. None of his views are mine. We are jumping it together, and we are just going to see what we see, and that's how we're going to do it. So
thank you to all of you guys who do subscribe, and please consider it if you don't already. So the theme for today's show is Donald Trump. What the hell is going on with him, man? Because I really do, just at this point, it's kind of hard to overstate what a disaster this whole thing has been, and just on every front. On every front. And I thought it was something that's worth going over. I think it's really important to do this because, much like, obviously there was a bigger time period here, but things are moving quicker than ever these days. But
real quick, before we go any further, I need to say that if you go back and look at his content, I would say even prior to the new administration, he had some very different views. And I know his views have been changing over the past few months. So I'm interested to see where Dave is going to, but you're going to have to go look for yourself. And if you already know Dave Smith, you already know. I feel like he's changing things a little bit. We'll see what happens here, but let's get back into it.
But if when Donald Trump successfully hijacked the Republican Party and took over and became president in 2016, well, the way he ran was a complete repudiation of the George W. Bush administration. He looked at Jeb Bush in a Republican primary debate in South Carolina, of all places, Rob, the military state of South Carolina. You're talking about the Republican, party primary in South Carolina. It's hard to overstate how much military influence there is over that crowd. And Donald Trump looked Jeb Bush in the eyes and said, "Your brother lied us into war." Not the war didn't work out well or the war wasn't prosecuted well. Like he said, he lied us into war. The charge is of like the most profound war crime that you can commit. Genuinely, that is an accusation that should be punishable by death. The idea that you lied a country into a war that got 1 million people killed and thousands of our own soldiers killed and cost trillions of dollars. But anyway, I just say that to make the point that obviously, at that point, Donald Trump, for whatever reason, whether it was a political calculation or he was just telling the truth, because it was both, right? It was a good political calculation and he was telling the truth. But he recognized that, the path going forward here is to just totally repudiate this. You know what I mean? It's not to try to defend this. It's not to try to say, there were a lot of other kind of milquetoast establishment Republicans who would have said, well, Obama was even worse than Bush or something like that. He was like, no, that's not the game we're playing. And likewise, in a similar fashion, I think the time is now that for Donald Trump. I think the time is for all of us to admit that this whole thing is just a disaster. I sent you this morning, Rob, this piece. I was reading a piece in the Economist about Donald Trump.
Can we slow that down, chop that up, and screw that? Can we? He said it's all just a disaster. I think people are starting to, I don't even like the term, we're not going to say, oh, people are waking up. No, honey, that's not what's going on here. I don't know if you've noticed, but there has been a different kind of feeling out there on the internet where people are starting to feel as if they might have been, the wool has been pulled away, or what's that damn saying? People are starting to realize they might have been lied to, is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like people for the first time are starting to come to their senses, which I know what happens when you are in this place where you feel like, this guy, he's doing everything right for me. He's doing everything for my family. I'm going to vote this way because my interests are my interests, right? I want to make sure that my family's good. I want to make sure that we are taken care of, because that is our number one primary focus, is ourself, our family, right? You as a person, your husband, your wife, your children. That's what we want to focus on. So I think a lot of people were focused so much on that, they didn't realize that you're being fed what you want to hear just so that a person can get your vote. It's a very hard thing to digest, but I think people are starting to digest it. So I don't want to say, oh, people are waking up. No, I think people are starting to digest the fact that they are being completely bamboozled.